collect all the data that needs to make all that happen.
Yay! You can see me.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I just want to just welcome you so much to our group and to like this event that we've been doing. Is all on self-image and how it holds so many of us back, right? It's not what we think that we are, but what we think that we aren't that's holding us back, right?
And very important work.
So, you have such an amazing story, and it's been so much fun to watch you grow and expand and to stretch and to just build everything that you're building. And so I wanted to bring you on so that you could share that with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you were before starting Thinking into Results, and then kind of we're talking about decision today. So kind of what that decision was for you to jump in and move forward, and then what's happened since.
Okay, so I think when you first reached out to me, I'm thinking about where I was. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I think that when we started off, I had maybe there was 4 employees that I had total. And I had been doing some reading on my own about kind of laying down the groundwork of reaching beyond myself. Like I needed to reach out and accept what the universe was giving me as far as I think I read a book called You're a Badass or something like that. It was whatever that book was. I was just like, yeah, I can do this. I could do this. And so I was kind of at a place where I was open to at least learning more and needing more guidance in my journey of becoming more of who I am. And that's when you and I actually talked, and you had said, hey, I'm doing this coaching on thinking into results. Are you interested in this? And I was like, actually, I am. And you're like, okay, let's do this. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I think we had talked then that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I really felt like that. I really felt like if I hadn't done all that background work ahead of time, when you had presented me with the opportunity of joining Thinking into Results, I would have gone, no, thank you. That's so not what I'm used to. It's too, I don't know, it would have felt like too out there. But in doing my reading and hearing all the ways that I am statements or positive, positive affirmations and those type of things, and how helpful they really are. And then dealing with some of the background work of the doubts that creep in and the fears that creep in. I was ready to hear the message. And again, reading that book, I think that book prepared me, to be honest with you. I think reading the book, she was like, she spent thousands and thousands of dollars on coaches, and that the very first one was like, her thought wasn't, well, how I can't spend that money. I can't spend the money. The idea was, how can you get that money so that you can get that help that you need? And I thought, so when it came up to me, like, and you're like, and this costs X amount of money, I'm like, okay, so instead of asking, how can I spend that money, is how can I make that happen? What do I need to do in my life so that I can make that happen? And I think that kind of started me on this huge path of where I am today. And so for those of you who don't know, like, where I am today is I now have 10 employees. We have moved from 350 square feet, which is where I was when we first started working. I had 350 square feet in my clinic, and I now have over 3,400 square feet in my clinic. And we have room to grow. And in fact, I think you mentioned it, we just won 2020 Best Small Business Award for Culpeper, which is I'm so excited about it. It was a great recognition for us.
So amazing. Oh my gosh. And just, you know, and a lot of this happened, like, I mean, you've been working on your growth and everything over time, but when everything hit this year, when 2020 came, like, that could have stopped so much for you, right? But
Absolutely.
you had already like been working and learning how to think in a different way and how to pivot when you came to those challenges. And instead of being like, okay, this is gonna wreck my business, you looked, instead of, you were asking really good questions. Instead of like, what am I gonna do now? You're like, how can I make this work for me? Right?
Exactly. What are the opportunities that this presents for me? I want to go back just a little bit because you said something that it reminded me. I remember having a conversation with you of going, oh my gosh, I'm not going anywhere. Like I feel like I'm stuck and I'm just not going anywhere. And in reality, what was happening is all the groundwork was being laid and it was setting me up for the next jump. And so from where I was standing, I wasn't seeing any progress. I wasn't seeing any growth, but it was important work that was being laid so that I could jump to the next level. And I saw that several times throughout when we were working together. I saw several of times where that happened over and over again. I was like, okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. I get it. So sometimes when you think you're not stuck, sometimes you're not stuck. Sometimes you're just laying really important groundwork for the next big leap. But you're right. When I will tell you, when Virginia shut everything down, I cried. I cried big tears. And then I put on my big girl panties and I was like, okay, so how are we going to make this work? Right? I've got people, I literally just hired a new therapist in February. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? And we pivoted. It took us a week and a half, but we pivoted to telehealth. And we were able to start seeing a lot of our clients through telehealth. Now, there were a handful of clients that either it wasn't appropriate for or they didn't have access to the internet. And so we had to kind of, okay, can we send them out at least something to help them before we can open up the clinic again? You know, what can we see them? So we gave them like home exercise programs and that kind of thing. The other thing that we did was we were so prepared. We were so ready to do like these awesome camps. We had it all lined up. We were going to do like these pre-screening sports camps, and we were going to do these watch and grow camps. We were so ready. And then COVID hit. So another one of our pivots was we decided to do an online social camp because a lot of our children were feeling really isolated from other kids during that time. And so we actually did this movement social camp. It was a blast. The kids had a good time, and it was so much fun to see them interacting. And it was something that we could give to the community and to help them grow. And again, it was something where we were able to pivot to do that.
Right? And in the end, you ended up having a greater impact, right? Than maybe you even would have if things hadn't turned out the way that they have, right? Because you were able to get out to a lot more people than, you know, might not have been able to show up in person.
Oh, absolutely. And telehealth was something that I was like, oh, yeah, I'm interested in. I just don't have the time to look into that. Well, guess what? I had a lot of time to look into it really quick and get that up and running. And the other thing, too, is that I was looking at opportunities. So where a lot of clinics were furloughing their staff, I looked at it as, I guess in the back of my head, I was thinking about Warren Buffett. When people panic, he's like, he's buying. And so I'm like, I'm going to be a Warren Buffett of therapy. So I'm going to be like buying. I'm going to be like picking up therapists. And I did. And I have several really experienced therapists on my staff now that perhaps I could have had that opportunity, but this just created an opportunity for me to have.
That's amazing. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. So how do you feel like this work, this studying and thinking into results has like impacted your life? Not only your business, because that's obviously thriving, but also like your relationships with your husband, with your kids, with, you know, how you're showing up for them and for yourself.
It can't help but expand out to my family and expand out to my other relationships. The big thing for me is my one, I had lots of aha moments, but one of the bigger aha moments for me was fear. And I didn't realize how much fear was holding me back. Like how much doubt that created in my head, how much doubt that, oh, that's scary. And that's something that, again, with my relationships, I would hear somebody, I would mention, oh, I'm going to do something. And then to hear what they would have to say, I now recognize, I'm like, that's their fear. That's not my fear. I don't own that. And that to realize fear is really that boundary of where you feel most comfortable. And so I'm trying to teach that to my children as well. I'm like, I know it's a little scary to get behind the wheel when you're driving a stick shift. To be honest, I'm a little afraid too. But it's a growth, it's a growth opportunity for the both of us. Let's just get in the car and drive. Or, for my son who is looking to be an electrician, and I'm like, yeah, you have to drive 45 minutes, but look at all the things that you're learning while you're there and looking up for the opportunities and the growth that's there. So I do believe that it has helped me grow beyond just business. I mean, I came to you specifically for my business, but I've also benefited on a personal level as well.
Amazing, right? And recognizing that, like, all of the beliefs that we've had about ourselves were programs that were put out for us by our parents, and we recognize those things that we were speaking to ourselves and our families, right? Like we were now more aware of, oh, that was their paradigm that they like passed on, right? That was their belief that they passed on. And so are you more aware of how you're speaking with your own kids and the programming that you're putting with them?
I would like to think I am. We'd have to talk to them for sure, but I would like to think that like for me, like another thing that I catch myself on is, and we're all used to doing that, like where you're like, oh, I always fill in the blank, right? I always lose things. I always burn things. Whatever it is that you always do. And then to stop yourself and go, until now. And now I can find things pretty easily. And now I don't need the fire alarm to go off for me to know that dinner's done. Like, but I would hope that I'm doing better at getting those messages to my children. I would hope. I would hope so.
I mean, they can't help but to, I mean, we learn by seeing, right? And so just by seeing how you're shifting and how you're like presenting yourself and how you are in your business and at home, I mean, it's having a huge impact, right?
So if anything, by example, there's certainly learning.
For sure. And then, so what was the impact of like having the accountability? Because so often it's so easy for us to bail on ourselves when things get challenging. And so what was the extra accountability for you? Like what was the benefit of that?
So there are two types of people in the world, right? There's the type A, like gotta get it done right now, and then there's the type B, like when it goes, it'll come, and then there's triple A, like I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna do it 10 times as high. And so to be honest, for me, like having to check in, it was like, ooh, let me brag. Let me tell you, I've worked really hard. I want to tell people all the things that I've done. But I loved when we would get together and we would have those discussions. And there were many times throughout that discussion, even if the discussion was focused on someone else at that time, I was like, ooh, that's a really good nugget that I'm going to take. And I'm going to use that later on with whatever challenge I have or something that's going on. And then there were other times where I felt like I could contribute to the group's learning. And to me, that was a lot of fun. Like to be able to go, hey, have you guys considered or ooh, thought about? And that to me was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that piece of it.
Yeah, I mean the group learning, the masterminding that happens, like everybody benefits. And it was so much fun to like have you come in and share what you were doing, right? And how you were doing things or challenges that were coming up, and then like everybody either comes up with an idea or a different way of seeing things, and then vice versa, right? So it's such a powerful community to surround yourself with. And I mean, the mastermind is so powerful to be able to help everybody, you know, because all of these situations help every single person in some way or another of thinking of a different way of doing things, um or you know.
And the encouragement too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I must say that, like, you know, there are some that need lots of accountability, and then there's ones that are like self-starters and just are like go-getters. And but even them, like even you, like the accountability and like you said, being part of that community is like really nourishing, really fun. So that's
And knowing that you were going to ask me if I've done any writing, knowing that you were going to do that, like, yeah, there's going to be writing, and I had to be held accountable. I still need to be held accountable for the writing.
some paradigms are more challenging to but
Some of them are really stuck.
but you did the writing, right? You would send me pictures.
I did.
And you would have come up with different ideas or shifted through something. So yeah, that's amazing.
I did, and I have. Well, you can't see it, but I have sticky notes where I wrote stuff up here. I'm so grateful and excited, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For every
Like I still have it up here. I'm so grateful and excited. Do you want to read? I'm going to read it. Can I read it?
do it.
Okay. I'm so grateful and excited to have 3 PTs, 3 OTs, 2 speech at the start of the 2021 school year. This is an amazing team ready to take stars to the next level. Having a full PT department allows me to focus on my business and not work in my business. I will have you know I have 4 OTs, 2 speech therapists, and a full PTs. So, anyways, it's up there.
Love it. Right? And you have this program forever, right? Like once you go through the program, you have it forever. And so it's a tool that any challenge in life, whether it's business or something, you can take it and plug it into the different lessons and be able to go and work through this and keep leveling yourself up, right? So
And there are times where I actually go back to that terror barrier. I do go back to that one.
yeah, because I mean, those fears are going to go away, right? You're going to continue to always level up and always experience new things, right? And if you're not challenging yourself and you're not coming up to those fears, then you're not pushing yourself enough, right? You're not growing because
You're in the comfortable
and
zone.
nothing happens in the comfort zone. And so when you go into that terror barrier, into the fear, and you get ready to go into the other side, like that's where the growth is, right? And that's that I go back into all the time as well.
I thought about this too. I thought about, well, my daughter's pregnant, and so eventually she's going to have to give birth, which is labor. And so it made me think a lot about like labor. And at least for me, with the contractions, I was taught to not pull away from the pain, but to almost dive towards it, like to submit to that. And in a sense, it's kind of what you're doing with the fear, right? Don't pull away from it, but almost like submit yourself to it, and then you can go through that. um, Anyways, to me, it's always like a wave. I always think of it like a wave. You don't stand up and run away from the wave. You kind of dive down into the wave or through the wave.
Yeah, and then the other side, it's like this peace and this like beautiful space, and you're like, oh my gosh. And it's always bigger in our head than the actual, movement through it, right? So it's
Absolutely.
amazing. So do you believe that it's inevitable to get the results that you desire? Like now that you know this process, you know what you need to do in order to like shift a thought process that, or those negative thoughts that keep holding you back or make you want to run the other way. Do you believe that you can create anything that you want?
Yes. If you had asked me when we first got started, I'd be like, I don't know. But what I've learned is that with each success, like I almost go, okay, I'll move it just a little bit further. And then I'm like, whoa, I got that. Okay, well, we're moving it even bigger. Whoa, I got there. Now I can move it. So with each success, I feel like it builds on it. And then you can just, when they talk about growing by leaps and bounds, you truly grow by leaps and bounds. It might start off with little baby steps in the beginning because you just haven't learned to trust the process yet, but then it grows.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe that.
So what's next for you? Like, what's the next thing that you're working on or that you're creating?
That is a really good question. There is in our 3,400 square feet, there's next door this empty space. I want to grow into that space. I really do. I want to grow into that space. Um, I want to reach as many children in my community as I possibly can. And the only way to do that is by expanding the amount of therapists I have providing those services. So that's kind of where I want to grow in um, a business sense. For me personally, to have the opportunity and the time to go and be Yaya, because my daughter's having a baby, um, and to spend that time with her, that's where I want to grow. I want to grow to a place where I can just pick up and, oh, I'm going to spend some time being Yaya. I'll be back in a month. I'll be back. I mean, I do have other children I have to take care of, so I can't be gone like all the time. But just to be able to have that freedom to do those things that are important to me, and being with family is important. So I think that that's what's kind of next is, where can I go and be with my family and spend that time with my family.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story and for just and your time. Very, very grateful for you.
I really appreciate the opportunity. This is new for me. I've never done a Facebook Live, so this was fun. I figured it out though.
And do you mind me sharing like what your first response was when I first asked you?
Don't go ahead.
So she only went through and like conquered some fears as well today. Just she jumped in and she was like, okay, because at first she was like, let me just do a video so that I can edit it. And I was like, no, 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 we want to be real. We want to like grow and step in, and you stepped up to it and you did it. So, so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Always growing, always growing.
Yeah. And just to know, like, you've always been an amazing mom, and but to know that you can be an amazing mom and a very successful entrepreneur, to be an amazing partner and a very successful, like, within your business, that you can create anything, right? Like, that's so, so powerful. And it's so much fun to see you stepping into both of those roles really, really well.
Thank you. It's also been fun. I have to say, it's also been fun to watch you grow as a coach and more into the woman that you are. And that's been really fun for me to see too.
Yeah, because Kim was one of my like first clients. And so it's been growth for both of us, right? And we're all always continuing to expand and to dive more into ourselves and to step out and just connecting with our own power. So thank you.
And I think there's something very, very powerful and authentic in knowing, like, this is where I am in this moment, right? But that's not who I stay. I grow beyond that. And so that's why I'm like, I look at where you started and I see where you are now. And I'm like, that's so fun. And so I don't know that I would stop to take that same perspective on myself. But today kind of forced me to kind of, when we were going over it before, I was like, okay, I kind of have to look, and where did I start and where am I right now? Because I think when we talked about it, how I feel about Bob, when Bob first said, you take a look of where you are now, because you're not going to believe in the growth that you've made. And then I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And now I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah.
It's true. It's true. And the fun, like, you just keep, like, once you reach that goal, then you make a bigger one, and then you make a bigger one, and then you make a bigger.
And the gaps are larger. Like I said, I wasn't I know that we had talked about dream big, and that, again, that comfort zone, right? But I was like, okay, but is that really, because you have to know that you can do that, right? It has to feel honest, and it has to feel like something that you can do. Otherwise, your brain's going, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. But now I'm like, oh, I know I can do it. Before I was like, I don't know, maybe. Now I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that. What else is on? Okay, yeah, I've got that too.
Yeah, so you're like totally stepping into your power, and like you know that anything is possible. Like if you've been given the dream, you've been given the thought for it, like you know it's for you, and you're like, okay, how am I going to make this happen? Not can,
That's the
is
question.
how.
How? The question is always how, not can.
Right? And then when you ask the right questions, the opportunities and the people and everything that you need to make those things happen just come to you, right?
Agreed. Agreed. Absolutely. Oh yeah, I think you have a wonderful group here. What a wonderful community. And I hope that they know that they are in wonderful hands, especially if they're working with you.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you have an amazing day and a good rest of your weekend, all right?
Thanks. You guys have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Oh my gosh. Kim is such an amazing like success story, and there are so many others just like her. And it's so much fun. Like that's why I do what I do, because it's so much fun to see you grow, see you step into her and like have all those limiting beliefs, those self-doubts, the negative chatter in your mind, like just step back. And for you to like Kim said, when you decide you want something, you're like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. There isn't a question if you can do it. It's you know you can, and you're going to figure out a way to make it happen. And the great thing is you don't even have to make it happen. It's just once you've made that decision that that's what you want, which is what we're talking about today. Once you make that decision that that's what you want, you've put it out to God, you've put it out to the universe, and then it's like, okay, finally, she says what she wants, she knows what she wants, and then she comes and like the people, the opportunities. Like who would have thought? Kim is a pediatric physical therapist. You know, who would have thought that having 2020 come, having COVID happen, and like literally shutting down her doors for her business, right? Because she couldn't physically touch anybody, but she has expanded. Like that's the opportunity that came that gave her the ability to reach deeper and to think differently and to step out and do something new, right? I mean, I talked to her and she was crying, right? She was not sure what was going on, but then she changed the conversation in her mind, and then now look at her. She's moved into a huge space. She sent me pictures. My kids would, it's like one of those play gyms, like they would love to go play there, right? Like she is expanding and she's getting closer and closer to like that baby is going to be born in the beginning of the year. Like by then it will be no doubt to me that she will be able to go for a month and just step out of her business and be able to go and do that, because that is what she's decided to do and she's made the decision. And so everything's going to come that she needs to have happen. So I want you to recognize that you can be, you can do, and you can have anything that you can dream of. And I know that that sounds really big right now because that's not the way that you're used to thinking, but it's the truth. You know, I mean, I never thought that what I'm doing was possible until I shifted my mindset and I started studying this, and then I realized that I needed to get out of my own way and change some of those beliefs and those thought patterns that I was having, right? Because we are the only ones that are holding ourselves back, right? Knowing that I can be an amazing mom and I can be an amazing entrepreneur. I can coach other people. I can, you know, live the life and have the business. that I can be and do and have it all. Like, it's true, you can too. And that's what I want for you, right? It's not business or my family, because that's what I did. I worked both of my businesses really hard, and then my family got what was left over, and it wasn't much, right? Or else I dove deep into my family, and then my business suffered. I thought it was either or, but now I know that I can do both, and I can do more than that, right? So you have to like discover what it is that you want for you, and we've been talking about this all week, right? So I'd like to know from all of you, did you find Kim's message, did you find her story inspiring? I do. Oh my gosh, it's been so much fun to watch her shift and grow and change, and I cannot wait to see where she's going and what she creates. But it's so powerful. So I hope that you find as much inspiration in what she shares as what I did. So that's just one story of so many, right? And and I know so many people that are getting phenomenal results. And this year when they jumped into this information, this message, this program, this study, like at the end of the year, so many people for New Year's Eve you're going to see all the memes of what 2020 was and thank God it's over, blah, 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 blah. And then there's going to be that circle of us that have been in this mindset work that are like, this is my best year yet. And it's all your mindset, my friends. It's all your mindset. 95% mindset, 5% strategy. So I want to say that imagine you're my next Kim, that the next time I do a class, you're the next Kim that is on here sharing your wins, your stories, your quantum leap in your life, right? What would that feel like? You need to make the decision, right? Nothing happens until you make the decision. And decision on so many levels. You need to be willing to put your money where your mouth is, right? You have to be willing to let our community wrap our arms around you and show you the way, because it's so powerful. And so if you're up for doing this, I want you to declare it. I want you to say, I'm in really big letters in the chat. Say, I am in. You need to decide. Nothing happens until you decide.